We're Footprint Media Group. We publish Footprint magazine. We run Footprint Awards and Footprint Forum. And our mandate very much sustainability in the food service industry, and as part of that, it's not just the environmental side, but very much the social side. And health and well-being we see as a very, very important part of that collective responsibility we have as an industry on the constituents we feed on a daily basis.
So what's our purpose being here today? Well, it's to very much focus on nutrition and health in the industry. And we look forward to a very lively discussion, so let's get cracking.
I go to some responsibility day meetings, I don't sit on your group, but they have then other meetings where they discuss salt and things like that. And there is this general feeling that they invite us and 3663 and then they invite KFC and they just think we're all the same.
Yeah.
So the public then look back in and say, hang on a minute, I do eat at work, things should be happening here as well. They're sort of demanding. I mean, do your customers care if things are healthier at work?
Yes, they do.
The Change for Life has no interaction with food service at all.
No, I know. That's
Absolutely
our experience
not.
too. Absolutely,
And purely is about shopping, cooking at home, and doesn't ever mention when you go out to eat.
Anything that we come up with has to be breaking these barriers of what food service is, because it's such a huge area. If some of the chains can't even put information when they're producing the same dishes every day. I mean, I think your example about the salad bar, where an average salad, I think, is just ridiculous. So it goes out the window, because all we've got to do is shove bacon bits on at the end of it, and you've broken salt and fat and whatever. So I think we're in a difficult situation, but I don't think that we should be trying to approach one or a couple of general solutions, because it just won't fit everybody.
The great things about meetings like this is that this is, everyone here is enlightened and understands the issue and wants to make a change. And it's easy to assume that there is even a minimum of the consensus out there in the industry. And my experience is that there is no consensus on this issue in the food service sector at all. I do think it is about communication, and I think our industry generally is very poor at communicating any kind of information to the consumer. We certainly, as an industry or as a body here and in other ways, we need to step up the level of education to particularly opinion formers in the industry. I mean, if you look at MDs in food service businesses, I would say this is low down the pecking order right now. And the reason why it is because they don't really understand the importance of the issue, and they don't understand what needs to be done to address that issue.
Personally, I don't detect any shift in movement from the time when it was FSA. I don't see what else the responsibility deal has brought in terms of the different actions. And I get a sense that because of the openness and the lack of legislative force behind it, that it can just be a forum for people reporting what they're doing. You're already doing it, so tell somebody about it and see if you can get any benefit from exposing your great activity to the outside world, rather than making anybody do anything differently.
But I think people are aware of it in our sector. Whether you're talking about very small organisations, I don't know, but
No,
the ones I'm talking about, the ones I meet, and I meet quite a lot of them through BHA and such like, are all fully engaged with this. Fully engaged with it.
UK standard that's being used, which is high fat, sugar and salt. Some things that are actually important to nutrition, like dairy, which under EFSA's draft profiles would get green lights, often gets red lights under the traffic light criteria.
Certainly, if you were talking about food service, we can't force people. You have to offer choice.
Take something concrete, some concrete collateral to those who we think should be more involved. So that's a good thing.
The other side of it is getting people to sign up. As you say, how do we get other people to sign up?
We all go to the supermarket, we all take a view of what we buy, we see what's being marketed, you listen about Marks and Sparks and Plan A and whatever. It's all part of that mix that you as an individual make some decisions upon. And I think whether you're very up for it or you don't give a damn, I think at least when you go to your place of work, if you are reasonably interested, you'd expect your food service company to reflect it in some way.
Do you want to walk up to a major company, a UK FTSE company, and see the name of the contract caterer on the side of the window? I don't think they'd want that at all.
It's 100 calories a day, which is nothing. You know, the UK, in its totality, would be a fit, healthy nation.
When you see what's
Now,
happened in Cuba.
the problem, and I get that, but it's too big. The number's too, you know, and it's too vague.
But we have to be conscious. I mean, we're all still running businesses here. So, you know, if you're giving your customers something they don't like the taste of, you've either got to shift the culture, or you've got to carry on giving them what they want. You know, I mean, you know, I don't know the actual specific facts, but I think soldiers need something like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day to do their job. So there's no point in giving them a beetroot salad with a bit of smoked mackerel on it because they can't sustain it. So there is a commercial angle as well that's very, very important, isn't it?
The technical chip is not a cost challenge then in creating healthier versions of existing products.
I mean, clearly,
and if it is, then you risk some sort of compromise of quality, and therefore who's going to do it?
I do think that there are organisations, there are exemplars in the industry who are excellent, and many of them are in the room here now, and there's many outside it. But I think the vast majority are not really up to speed with it.
Is the issue of competition. If suddenly everybody starts to be open about the calories in their products, but other competitors aren't, do they then therefore gain a competitive advantage?
But an awful lot of these tiny little ones, they won't have a clue how much is in it, and they'll all have been trained as chefs by classical methods, so they'll finish it with butter, or they'll finish it with cream, or they'll drizzle it with olive oil. And of course, olive oil's fine because it's good for you,
Yes,
you know. But you could have 100 calories in a drizzle of olive oil. But a lot of chefs are not taught anything about nutrition. Catering colleges don't see it as being a priority. They don't see it as being their job. And
Is that a fact now?
yes, absolutely, that is a fact now. And and therefore, chefs do not know how many calories are in their dish, and they don't know where most of the calories will have come from, even if you told them that there was 1,000 calories in that dish.
We can provide them with a healthy option, we can provide them with a choice, but at the end of the day, you know, do they have the adequate knowledge to decide and make that decision about what to choose? And if they have, do they want to choose it? So it goes back to things like calorie labelling. We invest a lot of time into actually calorie labelling our products. At the end of the day, it probably only impacts on a very small portion of consumers who are actually interested to find out what the calories is.
I do think it is about communication, and I think our industry generally is very poor at communicating any kind of information to the consumer. I think we certainly, as an industry or as a body here and in other ways, we need to step up the level of education to particularly opinion formers in the industry. I mean, if you look at MDs in food service businesses, I would say this is low down the pecking order right now. And the reason why it is because they don't really understand the importance of the issue, and they don't understand what needs to be done to address that issue.
We can provide guidelines as to what would typically be the nutritional content of a sandwich, but it's obviously going to vary from sandwich to sandwich and from shop to shop. You'll have one chef or a member of the cooking team who will be adding slightly more seasoning, for example, than the next. And if we're going to actually label that up on a shelf, then you're absolutely right, that's a legal claim then. That's something we leave ourselves liable to. So we can put a calorie count on there, because it's a board guideline. For us to go any further, that creates real problems for us.
In some restaurant chains that have done dishes for less than 500 calories and things like that, we have had a number of our customers have asked us for dishes that have less than 500 calories. People seem to understand that would be quite low, and I guess that's indicating that everything else might be more, but not necessarily.
Customer interaction at that point as well. So, while, for example, it might work if you do that for Domino's and you build your own online and you top your calories up at the same time while you're building it. Great, you probably have a chance of doing that. But how do you do that with something like a salad bar where the customer is serving themselves? You've got no way of providing any interface to add it up for them and provide an accurate guideline.
But if we're talking about cooking from scratch, we're talking about non-rotational menus. We're talking about chefs that sit down each week and write a menu from scratch, and there will be at least 12 to 15, if not more, fresh dishes on that menu, changing every single day. Then it's obvious to me that the education has to come to the chef level, and enabling them to then actually promote to our customers what is in their dishes.
There is a danger, perhaps, that you might end up just bamboozling the customer. And saying, well, we've got certification for its sourcing and for its nutritional content and for whether it's organic or not. So are we actually covering all these different bases that are overlapping in certain areas? And if we're going to do that, we need to be really, really clear of exactly what it is that we're targeting within this wider sustainability agenda.
There appears to be some concern around, well, if I start doing some messaging, am I going to be challenged? And actually the legislation here has been tightening up. As you know, there are only certain circumstances where labelling is mandatory, nutrition labelling. Of course, the latest legislation, harmonised European legislation on labelling, will bring more scenarios where labelling is required. I heard the word opinion formers. And opinion formers, who they are, seems to change. Some school kid blogging can become tomorrow's opinion formers. And you also have the added difficulty that we're in a world where social media can distort realities, and we've almost got to anticipate not only educating people, but what sort of miseducation we could counter as well.
Everybody's got a different profile. Some people will have breakfast at home, some will have breakfast at work, some people will have a light lunch and have an evening meal. So we as food service providers could be providing the best in the world at lunchtime, giving them the calorie information, having reduced salt meal on the counter, all the right things. But what they then go and do in the home in the evening, we've got completely no control about. It is that whole picture.
It comes down to a level of consumer choice, and as food service providers, we're there to provide that choice. And obviously, governments drive this. We've got a very unhealthy nation, and we cannot afford to have that very unhealthy nation. And I think that the key has to be where the consumer-facing element does come together with the business element, because all you're going to do is probably make those people who are already quite health conscious even more conscious and go, fantastic, this is now even easier. But how do you get through to those people who quite simply don't care and don't actually particularly have any interest in getting it because they don't take any responsibility for themselves in any way, shape or form? So.
There is a piece of legislation called the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive that is designed to fill gaps where legislation doesn't already cover fair information. And actually, if you look at the wording of the new Article 7 under the Food Information Regulation, that's very much concerned with fair information practices as well.
From a food service perspective, our overarching thing has got to be a choice. So we've got to give people choice, and we've got to give people information to help make those choices. So that, for me, that's going to be the overarching banner about whatever you do. Within that umbrella, there is room to nudge and there is room to push. You can nudge just, as we all know, like retailers do every day of the week, by location, but by placement of where you put your product. So we could do that, where you put your fresh fruit. Is it at the back or is it near the till? There's all those things you can do that can nudge. Where do you place your high calorie dishes? Where do you place your healthy choices? You can always do that. And then there is push, and that can be done through menu engineering, whereby we we do things unto the consumer without them knowing.
The other thing that could be done is everybody in the supply chain could be, we could build, for example, as a group here, we could build some models or some pilots around communication of data up and down the supply chain to improve knowledge from farm to customer. We could build that as a pilot and then try and roll it out across other places.
Like a lot of forums that attended in this, when we talk about food services, it is such a hugely diverse area, from contract catering to pubs to cafes to breakfast to hotels to venues, that if we're talking about solutions, and people have mentioned different solutions in terms of labelling and how we do, there isn't, in my opinion, one solution that fits all of food service. It just ain't going to happen. So I think we have to break down and look more individually at the sectors we work in, and then how we can deliver within the sectors within food service.
And for us, I think that's really important as well. So if you're trying to make a product healthier, you can't necessarily compromise the naturalness of the product by going down the artificial avenue, so to speak. So that also sort of shackles us in hands.
I think we're in a difficult situation, but I don't think that we should be trying to approach one or a couple of general solutions, because it just won't fit everybody. So I go back to the first point I made. I just think anything that we come up with has to be breaking these barriers of what food service is, because it's such a huge area. If some of the chains can't even put information when they're producing the same dishes every day. I mean, I think your example about the salad bar, where an average salad, I think is just ridiculous. It goes out the window, because we've got to do shove bacon bits on at the end of it. You've broken salt and fat and whatever. So
linked to is accreditations of different things. So when you're talking about property of supply or whatever, and you can say, well, this is Red Tractor or Farm Shore, it's this, it's that, it's the next thing. There's nothing really you can do, I don't think, from a food nutrition perspective.
it's interesting, if you look at the credits that come up after MasterChef, the first credit is where to find out about sustainable fish. There's nothing on it that says where to find out about nutrition. So that is the first hit that people are seeing in terms of.
Scandinavian countries, for instance, have their keyhole. So they have one symbol that says, this is healthy.
I think we get far more questions these days around sustainability of product than we do around nutrition of product. We've noticed that dramatically over the past 2 years.
The Unfair Commercial Practices Directive actually makes provisions for industry codes.
Yeah.
So you can make codes that are related to commercial practices.
Yeah.
And they're intended to define what is good practice.
Yeah.
And you could define what was good practice in providing nutrition information, for example. And that could also include the due diligence that sits behind that. And in doing so, that would help you have a professional diligence defence against any sort of allegation that your practice is misleading. It's also a means to gaining a harmonised approach. What you're already doing in terms of trying to marshal all the various views and opinions and understand them is a good start. Whether you see the solution as providing more information to the consumer, if that is the solution, then I think the code's really for you a way forward.
First, try to understand the complexity of food service, and then broken it into subsections, and then there are various steering committees around certain areas that are focused on key parts of that. And I think that's important to take, some of the positive learnings of how they've done that.